Yes. So good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another Power Pack session of Saturday morning sessions, SMS. So many of our friends are in Bangalore today for the CTC RRC. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to meet. I think Sujata ma'am had shared as to how Anish sir was there in one of the groups as a group leader. So I think many of you have been joining there. So many congratulations for the meetup that you have had. And today we are continuing with the discussions of the 55th GST Council meeting. So Vivek ji has taken us to two pertinent issues in the last session, in the last SMS. Today we will be taking us through the rest of the topics. So today the session will be moderated by none other than Arpit Haldia ji. So Arpit ji, good morning and a few words from you before Vivek ji starts maybe.
Thank you, Arup And first of all, as you have said that CTC would be presenting a great opportunity to meet with the group members. So yeah, in the last week, we had a great opportunity to meet with other members
Yes.
of the STAR. And there were
Ye-
many members of this group. And the beauty of this group is that wherever you go, you find the group members. And it's such a good thing to meet all of them at such places. So again, CTC provides an opportunity. And coming to today's topic, Vivek ji would be deliberating on the GST Council meeting, which was held in our own Jaisalmer, and all the council members had a great outing at Jaisalmer.
इसलिए क्या press release देनी हुआ था? Anyways.
Uh, so today's would be the second session on the GST Council meeting, and handing over the session, and would be discussing Vivek ji will be discussing the nitty gritties, and few of the circulars have also been issued regarding the GST Council meeting. So handing over the session to Vivek ji.
Thank you. Thank you, Aldia ji. Thank you, Arup sir. Uh, so, in the previous session, we discussed about few of the aspects of GST Council, 55th GST Council meeting. Today, I am supposed to take rest of the issues of the agenda, which we could not take up due to time constraint. Today's first agenda is to discuss about the proposed change in the statute under section 107 and 112 about the pre-deposit requirement. As you can see on the screen that there are two proposed changes for the pre-deposit provision. As we know that section 107 subsection 6 provides the pre-deposit quantum in regards to filing of the first appeal before the first appellate authority, and 112 subsection 8 provides for the same with regard to appeal to be filed before GST appellate authority, GST appellate tribunal. Now, at present, first appeal provision says that for the purpose of filing the first appeal, you have to pay 100% of undisputed amount and 10% of the disputed tax. But with this, it also gives a proviso to us, which says that provided that no appeal shall be filed under section 129 subsection 3 unless a sum equivalent to 25% of the penalty has been paid by the appellant. This is the existing provision. Of course, this is the GST Council recommendation, which has to be led before the legislature, and after passing all these changes, this can be seen in the form of the act. But right now it says that in context of 129 subsection 3, if you want to go for first appeal, you have to pay 25% of the penalty amount uh, to proceed for the first appeal under section 107. Now, this 55th GST Council meeting press release says, because we don't have the meeting minutes yet in hand, so press release says that to amend the proviso to section 107 subsection 6 for payment of pre-deposit at 10% instead of 25% for filing the appeal before the appellate authority in cases where the demand is of penalty only, and which does not involve the demand of the tax. So if there is a proposition of tax plus interest plus penalty, this amendment is not applicable. First point. Now, of course, Section 129 does not propose this particular context about levying the tax and interest, but here the same phrase has been used in both of the recommendation. Under Section 112, subsection 8, this phrase hold a very good significance, which we'll discuss later. Now, it is saying that if you are filing the appeal against the order issued under Section 129, subsection 3, at present, they are asking you to pay 25% of the penalty amount. But now they are actually bringing all the scenarios to 10%. As you can see earlier, that for the GST Appellate Tribunal, you had to pay 20% in addition to 10%. So that was also amended, and that was also brought down to 10%. So all the things are actually 10%. But there are a number of things which we need to discuss right now. The first thing is
just to stop here, like most of the cases we have seen that whenever we have to release the goods, like by paying the amount, they either take
yes,
100% of that.
Yes, that was that.
Is it 100 plus 25 or is it 100 plus 10?
No,
or is it something
that's what I am about to discuss. Yes. I understand this. So the point is, because Section 129, subsection 1 says that on payment of so and so clause A, B, C, they will be releasing this conveyance and the goods. Okay. So the point is that we have already paid 100% for the purpose of releasing the goods and conveyance, and thereby we are approaching that under protest, and then we are approaching to the first appellate authority. So an awkward situation seems to arise that why they are asking you to pay 25% of the penalty, despite that you have already paid 100% of the penalty over there. Penalty equivalent to twice of the tax, or as the case may be. So when you have already paid the penalty under protest and you are approaching to the first appellate authority, then what is the significance of this proviso? I think this is your question, right?
Yes.
So, in fact, I also evaluated this matter, that why they are asking for this. I think they actually give you two ways under Section 129, subsection 1. One is the payment, and another one is BG, bank guarantee. I think this proviso holds the significance in case of bank guarantee, which is equivalent to the penalty amount, of course, because you have not paid anything at the adjudication level under Section 129(1), and then if you are approaching for the first appeal, then this particular requirement of payment of pre-deposit equivalent to 25% of the penalty comes into the picture. Otherwise, I don't see any scenario where this proviso can have its own applicability. So to my understanding, in such a case, you have to pay 25% of the penalty. Again, the point of dispute can be seen that when you have already given the BG that is equivalent to 100%. So whether that to that extent the BG shall be released, that is not answered by the law to my good understanding. So this is one of the recommendation which is being given by the GST Council to the legislature right now. Now I will go for another recommendation, then we'll have the comparison, and you may see a number of issues in that. The second recommendation says that there will be an insertion of new proviso under Section 112, subsection 8, which provides for payment of pre-deposit at 10% for filing the appeal before the appellate tribunal in cases involving only demand of penalty without involving the demand of the tax. as you can see that 112 subsection 8 does not have any proviso as such. So at present, if I do talk about section 129 order, which is being appealed against, we do not have any pre-deposit requirement for the second appeal as such. In fact, for any penalty amount, disputed penalty amount, we do not pay any pre-deposit as per the existing provision, be it 107 or 112. But now they are asking you to pay 10% pre-deposit for the disputed penalty in cases involving only demand of penalty without involving demand of tax. So if the order is exclusively asking, if the demand is exclusively of penalty and not of tax, then in that case, they ask you to pay 10% as a pre-deposit in addition to whatever is written in clause A and clause B. Now, there may be, because the moment you start to compare the provisions, you start to get number of scenarios and evolvement. The point is, where the demand is of penalty without involving the demand of tax, for the order issued under any respective provision other than 129 subsection 3, they do not ask you to pay any pre-deposit here, existing and as per the recommended provision. And when you see here in the existing provision, you do not find any such proviso on a similar lines what you see in under section 107 subsection 6 for 129 fee matter, right? So now they are recommending to insert a universal proviso for the disputed demand of penalty without involving the demand of tax, that is 10%. So there is an awkward situation actually. For 129 subsection 3, they are not asking at present anything to pay at the second appellate forum, but they are asking you to pay at the first appellate. And then under section 112 subsection 8, they are asking you to pay 10% for any demand of penalty without involving the demand of tax. So this is again a very anomaly wala situation that you can see here. So
can you just go to the previous slide?
Yes.
Yeah, here it says in clause B, a sum equal to 10% of the remaining amount of tax in dispute, provided that no appeal shall be filed against an order under 129(3) unless a sum equal to 25% of the penalty has been paid by the appellant. So does it mean only for those 129 cases where 10%, 25% was already paid, that has been reduced to 10, yes, and now another 10% will be paid?
No, not another 10% actually. Okay. The point is, if I am getting your question correctly, the point is that this proviso is being amended first, and this proviso is restricted to 129 free cases only, because they are using this 10% instead of 25%. So if I refer this press release, I find this observation that they are not actually bringing that particular situation where the disputed demand of penalty without involving the disputed amount of tax universally will be here. I don't see this. It is just for 129 fee matter. I hope I have answered.
Because it refers to the proviso to 107(6). So whatever is referred to in proviso to 107(6) only should be attributed to.
Then why they would have written 10% instead of 25%? This is the point. Now let us see in what manner they actually bring the provision, because press release many a times differs from the actual understanding of the council meeting.
Right.
So as of now, I can just rely on this wording. So this is an anomaly which we all are observing here. Shall we proceed further? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then we have to check what is the fate of pre-deposit for appeal to be filed before High Court or Supreme Court. The point is very, very interesting that section 119 seems to be, very dangerous section as such, because however, it is worded differently. In a very different fashion, it is worded. But let us see what 119 is saying, because I see an interpretation flavor from comparing the provision with each other. So when you compare the provision, uh, the similar provision or different provisions, you actually come out with the different observations. So when I read section 119, it says, notwithstanding that an appeal has been preferred to High Court or Supreme Court, sums due to the government as a result of an order passed by principal bench of appellate tribunal under section 1131, or an order passed by state benches of appellate tribunal under section 113 subsection 1, or an order passed by High Court under section 117, as the case may be. Sums due to the government as a result of an order shall be payable in accordance with the order so passed. So notwithstanding an appeal has been preferred to High Court or Supreme, you have to pay that much of amount, which is again sums due. It is not just the tax or disputed tax. Sums due shall be payable in accordance with the order so passed. So I don't know in what fashion it has to be actually concluded, because if I take this scenario, it is going to be very, very pathetic one. Because if the appellate tribunal comes out with the demand, and if you want to go for the appeal before the High Court, it seems that they are asking you to pay everything, whatever is written in the order. So you have to pay everything, right? Now, if I compare again with 107 subsection 6 or 112 subsection 8, that says no appeal shall be filed unless, here this wording is not written. It says notwithstanding an appeal has been preferred to High Court. Now, at what time this amount is to be paid, it is not written. Whereas section 107 subsection 6 and 112 subsection 8, it says appeal shall not be filed unless you pay so and so. So the timing is again a disputed matter. I don't find this particular thing in any of the earlier law also. No, they will be asking you to pay everything before filing the appeal to the High Court and Supreme Court. This is a very serious provision, I think, because how this particular situation can be imagined when you will be asked to pay everything just because you have to exercise the appeal rights. So please, in times to come, the moment GST Appellate Tribunal starts to function, I think this provision shall be the point of attraction. And then my another observation is, because they are asking, they are actually using the wordings demand of penalty without involving the demand of tax. Demand of penalty without involving the demand of tax. So the point is, what is the meaning of tax? So I know that I am actually discussing a very disputed wording. This word tax, whether this word tax includes the input tax credit also. And I remember in a one session 1 year back, if I'm not wrong, I discussed this particular phrase while other speaker was discussing about 132 or 10 or 73 or 74. Because when you read section 73(1) or 74(1), they ask, they mention the 5 situations when you have wrongly availed the input tax credit or wrongly utilized it, or when there is a shortly paid tax, the situation of shortly paid tax, or when there is non-payment of tax or the erroneous refund, right? So they are consciously using these 5 wordings, tax and input tax credit, in 73(1) and 74(1) both. And then under section 73(9) or 74(9), they ask you to pay the amount of tax, right? So they say that penalty equivalent to 10% of tax due also, right? So what is the meaning of tax due? Because under section 132, when you read the explanation to 132, that specifically says that for the purpose of this section, tax includes input tax credit. This particular definition is missing in 73 and 74 both, right? And 107, 112 both. So the point is, in what style I should actually go for the meaning of word tax. And let me tell you, I have already argued so many cases based on this. The judgments are yet not issued on these issues by the adjudicating authority and first appellate authority. Of course, I know that this is a very big litigation prone issue. In times to come, they will go for the interpretation. They will, of course, go for the purposive interpretation. We are going for the literal interpretation. So with this, I think this point should be treated as concluded. If you have any issue, please discuss. Otherwise, we'll go for the next. Taldiya ji, आगे बढ़ें?
Yes, Vivek ji, let's try to finish it first today, and then we will take the queries.
Okay, thank you. So there is another change being proposed by GST Council meeting in regards to renting of immobile property. This point is a very simple point actually, but they are, time and again bringing something new in this. So again, interesting that how they are thinking. So before I go further, I would like to mention that we have a notification, if I'm not wrong, 18 of 5/2022 central tax rate, which talks about an insertion of a reverse charge entry, which says that services by any person by way of renting of residential dwelling to a registered person is subject to reverse charge. And then in 54 GST Council meeting, they discussed about something which is beyond the residential dwelling. And in 55th GST Council meeting, they are bringing another change into this. The entire journey of these changes are before you in the screen. In 54 GST Council meeting, it says, the press release says, renting of commercial property shall be brought under the net of RCM if it is provided by unregistered person to the registered person. And then they issued notification with different wordings. It says renting of any property, rather than using word commercial, they used renting of any property other than the residential dwelling by unregistered person to registered person shall be subject to reverse charge mechanism. And then they realize that what is happening into this. In fact, I remember I have also sent a particular view to the government that This is not aligned with the press release being discussed. And then they came up with a corrigendum stating that any property to be read as any immovable property on 22nd of October 2024. And then now in 55th GST Council meeting, they are saying that if the registered recipient is under the composition scheme, he shall be given the relaxation on this. That means he will not have to pay the tax under the reverse charge mechanism. So this is a brief journey of this development. So in toto, or if I do take an inclusive meaning, now they are thinking for every immovable property to be under the net of tax, be it a forward charge case or reverse charge case, right? Though the points are disputed, I will be restraining myself to a very limited point of discussing that what is the impact of this change and some nitty-gritties of this. They the noticeable point is that out of 54th GST Council meeting, they actually issued a notification 9/2024 dated 8th of October with the effective date on 10th of October 2024. So meaning thereby is in the month of October also you had to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism if it falls under this entry. So in the month of October, you had to pay the reverse charge, the tax under reverse charge for 22 days effectively. If I take a monthly rental beginning from 1st of October to 31st of October, you had to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism for 22 days. Regardless of the corrigendum, because the corrigendum says any property to be read as any immovable property. Now, and that is to any immovable property other than residential dwelling under reverse charge, under residential dwelling by unregistered person to registered person. Whereas in entry 5AA, because this is the 5AB entry, 9/2024 came up with entry number 5AB to 13/2017 central tax rate, the master notification of reverse charge mechanism. Whereas in entry 5AA, it says by any person to a registered person. Here it says by unregistered person to registered person. So this is the very first and the most important difference. And then it says in 55th GST Council meeting that person registered under composition scheme will not be under this 5AB. So he will not be under the net of 5AB. But this particular scenario is not there in case of 5AA. So very interesting, they actually come with a particular position in a scenario, but they miss actually about the other scenario, comparable scenario and the relevant scenario. Because if they want to give the relaxation to the person registered under the composition scheme, they may the scenario is same here in the case of 5AA also, I think. But yes, the situation is that only. Now, when we read it, renting of any property other than residential dwelling by unregistered person to registered person. Because in press release of 54 GST Council meeting, they used the word commercial property. Now they are saying any property other than residential dwelling. So can I conclude in that style that any property other than residential dwelling should be taken as a commercial property only? I think no. Because dwelling itself has its own meaning. So for residing, right? So if there is a residential plot being given by unregistered to registered, that will also be under the net of 9/2024. Because now they are saying any property other than residential dwelling. So the residential plot, which is of course not for residential dwelling, even if it is being given by unregistered to registered, it shall be under the net of reverse charge, subject to the point that it actually qualifies under the scope of supply under section 7. So my entire discussion is subject to the the satisfaction of the provision of section 7, that is the scope of supply, because it would be otherwise very long driven issue, which I'm not discussing due to the time constraint. So this point is this point is discussed in 55th GST Council meeting with a rider that it is recommended to regularize on an as is where is basis the period starting from October 10, 2024 for the composition scheme, right? So this, because they are coming to give the relaxation to the composition scheme. I think there is no much applicability of regularization here, because this press release is issued on 21st of December, if I'm not wrong, and composition registered person pays the tax on a quarterly basis. So he might not have paid for the month of October also, in fact, October, November, or December, because they have already come up with the position that composition registered person is not required to abide by this, because it is being regularized. So even though they have written it, I don't see the applicability of this regularization here. Now there are few points which we can discuss. Few I think I've discussed. Few are yet to be discussed. They are actually saying any property other than residential dwelling, and now any immovable property other than the residential dwelling. So it is not just the civil structure which is the subject matter, I think, because if it is a case of immovable property, in fact, the plant and machinery may also be treated as immovable property subject to litigation. But yes, they are using the word immovable property, not just land and building. And the person who is actually transiting from regular to composition or vice versa will have to work on the ITC part. Whenever they are transiting from composition to regular scheme in between of a tax period, according to the taxable value, they will have to bifurcate it, and accordingly they will have to compute the eligibility or ineligibility. So this is also a point which I think I have covered. Shall I go further?
Sir, one doubt.
Yes,
You
please.
said under entry 5AA, any person to a registered person. What do you mean by that, sir?
So they are not saying that person should be the supplier should be a registered supplier, or supplier should be unregistered supplier.
So how do you interpret that? Then he becomes automatically he has to take registration, or does that limit apply, threshold limit?
Sorry, I'm not getting your point.
No, see, when you want to when you are to get registration, you should come under the threshold limit of turnover. When you say registered, any person to a registered person means, how do you?
It means having said that you are a registered person and you are renting the residential dwelling to a registered person,
then it comes under forward charge.
Regardless of the fact that your aggregate turnover exceeds the threshold limit, you will be under the net of 5AA only.
Which means you will come under forward charge. If he is a registered to a registered, no problem. If he is a registered.
But they have actually notified under section 9 subsection 3. This notification is issued by exercising the power of 9 subsection 3 only. They are saying that you don't have to see the other position. You don't have to think normally. You have to think abnormally.
Okay. But now you are saying that 22 days, now wherever the rent is coming, you say after the end of the month. So for October, if the rent is payable only in November, then only November you have to do the RCM. No? You can't do for October.
No, you have actually supplied the rental services for the month of October only. The payment terms may be different, but you have supplied for that month only.
Oh, in case we have not done, we have to pay interest and then claim credit.
Yes.
Okay.
These are the abnormalities. Actually, the taxation, in fact, the laws are meant to be complicated. I think, they bring so many scenarios, so many things, time and again in between. And surprisingly, sometimes they go for the rational thought. Sometimes they do not go by that. When you see the change in 9963, because earlier we discussed about that 9963, they are saying that we don't want to disturb the financial year, and this proposed change is to be implemented from the new financial year afresh. And in those cases, they do not think like this. They come up with the amendment to be made effective from 10th of October. They do not even think for 1st of November, right? So, I don't say that 1st November is the only criteria. If the contract starts from 10th of October, then in that case, the situation is a rosy situation for the computation part. But this is how the laws are. Okay. And for these petty things, we have to spend the time. But of course, these are the matters of discussion. We have to think and think.
So it's safer to go ahead with 22 days interpretation and then pay it. Anyway, it can be claimed as a credit now.
Yes. Any questions, sir?
Sir, with respect to this, any property and any immovable property, I'm not seeing any big difference. What was the need to bring that, sir?
Actually, property, I've referred this thing in this article, and I will give you this presentation also. I have actually analyzed this situation, that what is the meaning of property, and can I just imagine a property equivalent to the or as an immovable property, right? So any property should not be tantamount as an immovable property only. The property is a wider term. Immovable property is subset of this. So property means any asset as such. So if you provide the rental services of any property, any asset, if this corrigendum is not issued in the line with 54 GST Council meeting, and if I isolate everything apart from this notification, I would have a very wider tax network, right? So it would be otherwise bringing a big implications, because if you are unregistered person, you are giving any asset on rental basis to another registered person, in that case it would have come under the net of 5AB.
Okay.
Sir, what happen if agricultural property is being given on rent? Because the residential being exempted, and it become a taxable in the hands of the recipient.
Sorry?
If the residential renting of residential property is an exempted service, and if it has been given to a registered person, it became a taxable under RCM. Similarly, will they also draw the same line for agricultural land, let out of agricultural land?
Yes, because to my good knowledge, they have not exempted the renting of agricultural land, if I'm not mistaken. In that case, yes, that shall also be under this net.
Vivekji, renting of agricultural land for cultivation of plants and that is exempted in the 9986.
Then the purpose is added with this. Yes. But it is not universally exempted.
Yes.
One more thing. Here, for the purpose of 5AA and 5AB, the use does not matter. If you are giving the residential dwelling for residential purpose, it is not written here. Okay. if you are giving any property for any purpose, the matter is what is the subject matter and who are the supplier, who are the recipient. That you have to check. The use is not required to be checked. It is beautiful, actually. Beautiful reading. Yes. So now I am going forward. Now I am going forward. Now I am going forward. Just a minute. So shall we move ahead?
Yes, Vivekji.
Thank you. Now, because we have a little time, I have to discuss another two topics. Yes. The late fees for delay in furnishing the Form 9C. Another interesting point and a very large discussion can be held so far as the interpretation is concerned. I think government has not thought, it seems, okay. Government has not thought about the actual reading of the law, and that we'll be discussing in this process. Recommendation of 55th GST Council meeting says that to clarify through a circular that late fees under section 47 subsection 2 is leviable for delay in filing the complete annual return under section 44, which includes 9 and 9C both. So now they will be clarifying that 47 subsection 2 is applicable for 9 and 9C both, which is very obvious because now with effect from financial year, practically 2021 onwards, GSTR 9C is also forming part of the annual return only. As you can see that we had two provisions separately. GSTR 9 was being regulated by section 44 earlier, and 9C was being regulated by 35(5). So 35(5) is omitted, and this reconciliation part is also included under the annual return provision itself. So section 44 itself says every registered person shall furnish annual return, including the reconciliation statement, blah, blah, blah. So because we had different set of provisions for both of the forms earlier, and now a single provision for both of this. So accordingly, the late fees is required to be computed. If we to talk about initial 3 years, the late fees is to be computed under the separate provision. And when we do talk about section 44 as a single governing provision for 9 and 9C with for financial year 2021 onwards, then in that case, late fees is to be decided by section 47 subsection 2 only, right? So this is a first context which we had to take care. And then for the annual, now the second recommendation is for the annual returns pertaining to 17-18 to 22-23. So now it is not for 23-24 because 23-24 annual return is furnished after this recommendation only. I mean to say the due date is occurring after the 55th GST Council meeting only. So of course they would not be giving any relaxation for 23-24. So it says for annual returns pertaining to the period of 17-18 to 22-23, Council recommended to issue a notification under section 128 for waiver of the amount of late fees for delayed filing of 9C, which is in excess of the amount of late fees payable till the date of filing of 9 for the said financial year, provided said 9C is filed on or before 31st of March 2020. So here they are going to exercise 128 for giving the waiver of the penalty for financial year 17-18 to 22-23 as such. So it means despite you have not filed 9C, you will be given the relaxation for the waiver of penalty which was otherwise leviable for 9C under the separate provisions. So for initial 3 years, 17-18, 18-19, 19-20, there was a provision, there was not a specific penalty provision under the statute. So the applicability of 125 was being seen in that by the authorities also, and a number of discussions I think have already taken place whether 125 is to be applied here. But for next financial years, so 19, 20, 2021 onwards, 9C related penalty provision is stipulated under section 47(2) only. It means if you have furnished 9 but you have not furnished 9C, you are not set to furnish annual return completely. And that is therefore 47 subsection 2 was still in force because you have not furnished annual return as per section 44 completely. Okay, so now they are saying that आपके सारे पाप धुल जाएंगे if you actually furnish 9C well before, on or before 31st of March 2025. So regardless of the fact that which provision was regulating this, of course, those who have paid, will not get any refund out of it. We all understand this particular thing. One thing is that they are giving the waiver to the extent when it is delayed in excess of the amount of late fees payable till the date of filing of 9. So till the date of filing of 9, whatever the late fees is there for 9C, that you have to pay. Are you getting my point? Very interesting. If I see 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20. If you have not filed 9C timely, they are saying that delay condonation, there will be a waiver for late fees which is in excess of the late fees till the date of filing of the 9. So till the date of filing 9, if you have not furnished, of course you have not furnished 9C. So in that case, for initial 3 financial years, there shall not be any waiver as such. Just a minute, I'm just taking a hold. Sorry. So if I go with the wording which is written in the 55th GST Council meeting press release that says कि आपको relaxation सिर्फ 9 के बाद 9 फाइल करने के बाद की लेट फीस के वेवर के तौर पर है. So if the late fees exist till the date of filing of 9C qua for late furnishing of 9C, the waiver is not there. I think they might not evaluated the actual proposition of law, and that is why this anomaly is clearly evident from this wording. I think we are on the same page. Hello.
Yes, Viveki, you can move ahead.
Yes. Yes. So, so now you just have to make sure that you file your 9C before 31st of March 2025 as for all of the financial years from 17-18 to 2020, 22-23, if it is not filed. Because people, the taxpayers were not actually clear about the wording of aggregate turnover. Many of the taxpayers actually could not imagine the applicability of 9C. So that is one of the reasons for those matters specifically where a particular registration did not have any turnover. Right. So they thought that 9C is not required to be furnished in such a case, and they have not actually furnished it. So they are actually observing or facing the big amount of for this late fees. So and thereby council has taken up this matter and provided this relaxation. I think that's the point. So far as Safari Retreats is concerned, I think we all are aware about the recent development. Of course, 55th GST Council meeting is recommending to amend this law retrospectively. I think a day before we came to know about the review petition filed by exercising Article 137. They have actually filed the review petition before the Supreme Court to consider the arguments of the PP, public prosecutor. So there are two developments now. One is they are considering to bring the retrospective change, plant or machinery to be replaced by plant and machinery to align with the clause C and the definition given at the bottom of 17.5. And at another hand to remove any ambiguity and to remove any litigation as such. They are they have filed the review petition for this. So now in times to come, we'll see in what fashion we actually see the litigation for 17.5D. So this is the discussion for the day. I think the agenda is completed from my side.
So any queries or discussion of members? We have 5 minutes left for today's session. Vivekji, the amendment relating to the pre-deposit of appeal which has been brought and how 1076 they have sought to amend by inserting 10% where only penalty demand is leviable. So it would again be creating lots of issues wherein CGST normally how they do is that they do not appropriate the tax suppose there is a demand of 1 lakh rupees of tax and 1 lakh rupees of penalty and 50,000 rupees of interest, and I have paid the tax. They do not reduce the demand, they only appropriate it, but they do not reduce the demand, and still they issue the entire DRC 07 for the entire 1 lakh of tax, 1 lakh of penalty and 50,000 of interest. So again, there would be an issue that how the pre-deposit would be calculated, whether it would treat it as the order only for the penalty or it would be treated that the order is for both tax and penalty.
But in substance, actually, if they have not appropriated, it is if they have not reduced the liability, it is their mistake. Otherwise, in substance, there is no liability as such in such a case.
But generally, what they do not reduce the demand, they still keep the demand of tax alive and then issue the order.
So that is their mistake, and I think 161 may be exercised, but for this, I should not pay any pre-deposit on it.
Yes, and how we see today the orders being issued that the demands are being issued for such an amount that it is normally not possible for the assessee to pay the 10% of tax.
Yes, yes,
Now,
yes.
when they would be issuing, asking to pay 10% of penalty, now what the officers are doing, that they are invoking multiple provisions of section 122 subsection 1, treating a and thereby levying penalty in the 2 or 3 different provisions. So in this case, it would be very tough for the assessee to pay 10% of penalty for all the 3 provisions.
But वही है ना कि एक गलती के लिए 2 थप्पड़ नहीं पड़ सकती, right? So and that is also stated in the law.
No, what they have done in one of the cases, that they have issued an order for tax under 74, penalty under 74, but along with that, they have also issued that they have also levied penalty under section 122 subsection 1
Yes.
for suppression, for the suppression and non-disclosure of turnover value in the non-disclosure of value in the returns. So now, even if I have to litigate that amount, I still would have to pay the 10% of penalty for 122(1). I am knowing that they cannot levy. But if they have levied, now the law is asking me to pay 10% because 122(1) would be treated as a order solely for the levy of penalty.
Yes. I understand this, and with this, 107 subsection 6 does not seem to give any hardship to you as per the current wording. And but yes, 112 subsection 8, would give the heat on that.
Yes, and regarding section 119, we were having discussion regarding 119 that how the appeals would be filed before the High Court, and whether an entire amount of tax is required to be paid before filing of or at the time of filing of the High Court. So in one of the sessions, we were having discussion on this, and what was the common consensus which came, that since there is no specific provision for unlike 107 or 112 for making pre-deposit. So yes, on one point there seems to be an issue that entire tax amount has to be paid, but at the same time, whenever an appeal would be filed before the High Court, a stay petition would also be filed before the High Court, and once whatever the High Court decides that this amount has to be paid, that would have to be paid, and the rest of the demand would be stayed. So it would be a mandatory thing that a stay petition along with the appeal would be filed.
Yes. But yes, this 119 is actually giving this hardship, because you'll have to be on the mercy of the High Court whether to use the stay on that or not.
Yes, similar provisions were there in entry tax in Rajasthan, wherein there was no amount of pre-deposit which was required to be made while before filing of the appeal in entry tax. So whenever we used to file an appeal in the entry tax, we used to file a stay petition along with the appeal, and the appellate authority used to decide that what is the amount which has to be paid for the stay of the demand to be made.
RPG, same thing was applicable in Centex's also. Whenever we were filing the appeal before High Court in Centex's cases, we used to file stay application. So that, I think the law remains same.
Yes.
EST and the Centex is the same thing. But for this High Court, we do not have to make any pre-deposit, but we have to file a stay application, and we are at the mercy of the High Court only.
Yes.
And concluding, whenever, as Vivek ji has also said, that when the appeals by the Commissioner Appeals were being decided, and it was to be filed before the appellate authority, appellate tribunal, then everyone came to know that 20% is too high. So section 119 would also operate whenever the orders of tribunal would be coming, and the appeal would have to be filed before the High Court. Somewhere down the line, this issue might be addressed, although it might not be changed, but there might be a circular on this issue, that how the appeals have to be filed before the High Court and whether any pre-deposit is applicable or not as per the statutory provisions.
Yes.
So concluding today's session, and thank you, Vivek ji, for your deliberation in 2 continuous sessions on the 55th GST Council meeting. And I understand that it's a very tough thing to deliberate on the council advices, because this is not a statutory document of the press release, and we have to interpret without having any assistance of the minutes and the agenda. But still, you have done that, and for the 2 continuous sessions, we have deliberated on the nitty-gritty, that how 107, how 112 would operate, and similarly to 107, there is no enabling provision in 112 for section 129, and how section 44 and 35 has to be analyzed, and the waiver of the late fees and applicability of section 125 on the filing of annual returns. Thank you very much, Vivekji, for your deliberations, and I request all the participants to come on the forum and be a part of the SMS as a speaker also. And thank you very much all for the participation. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Brilliant presentation, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.